All right, we are now live YouTube. I appreciate everyone for watching this. We have ourselves Bdell1014. I've been watching him for a while. Great guy. You want to introduce yourself, Bdell?
Well, my name is Bdell. On my YouTube channel, on my platform, I talk about prophetic divination, eschatology, ontology, theological context, and I break down the esoteric principles of it to where people have an intuitive understanding about what's going on. Because the thing is, when it comes to religion and monotheistic teachings, a lot of people don't understand the decipherment between the allegories and mythology of it. So that's what I do. I do a lot of breakdowns on the extraterrestrials, the Anunnaki, all types of stuff.
Okay. All right, great. So when it comes to this gender war that's going on right now, right? We always hear about it. We always see it. It is something that is very present nowadays. It's everywhere you go on Instagram, social media. We're always seeing something about man versus woman. Oh, get you stop getting a partner that's cheating. And I feel like it's affecting the world. I feel like it's affecting the mind of the world. I feel like it's affecting people. I feel like it's affecting humanity. And that was what drawn us to get this video done together, because it's a lot. It's a lot. And you were the one who did inspire this title of this video for all the viewers watching. So, Vito, why is this gender war a curse? What makes this gender war a curse?
The reason the gender war is basically a curse is because they're afraid of the unification of the divine feminine and the divine masculine working in synergy. Because when you have the original people, when they're amongst each other, we have the ability to dematerialize everything in the three-dimensional realm. So just the unification in itself is powerful because it contains a tachyon type of energy. So like just kind of like the movie Matrix at the end of the new one, when the divine masculine and divine feminine, when they was basically unifying in the movie, that's when they became powerful. They was able to reach an autonomous status to where they wasn't, acclimated to the Matrix paradigm anymore. So in order to deviate from the Matrix system in the sleep spell, you have to unify. So the gender war propagation is under the veneration of westernized television networking systems, because they know that art imitates reality. So this is why when you look at certain goddamn TV shows, they always propagate the black man being emasculated or the black woman being overly masculine. And that's based on asymmetrical biochemical warfare. And the reason I say that is because the main inception to the point is that they like to give off this perception that the black woman is very over sexualized. So that over sexualization is basically the precursor to, you ever heard of a microchimerism?
No, I haven't heard of that. What is that?
Microchimerism is basically warrior sperm. So a woman, when she lays down with a man, she's able to take up on the frequency of his semen, right? And that semen doesn't dematerialize. It stays inside of her womb for a certain period of time. So she's laying down with this man, that man, and this nigga and that nigga, and she's laying down with a bunch of dudes, whether if they wearing protection or if they going in raw. It's one of those things where the warrior sperm, it transmutes into a microchimerism, and that microchimerism becomes energy of testosterone that depletes the woman's estrogen levels. So this is why you have the whole concept of a woman thinking like a man, because the microchimerism sperm, it travels up to the woman's neural synapses and it takes over her neurological capacity. So that's why, like, you get stuff like with Steve Harvey talking about think like a man. That's how that whole propagation is in that energy. So
do you feel like Steve Harvey? You feel like Steve Harvey was pushing that message? You feel like he was
yeah, most definitely, because
you feel like it was an agenda.
Oh yeah, it's definitely an agenda, because when you understand the multitude of all celebrities, whether it's basketball players, rappers, singers, or whatever, they all propagate the democratic principles. So that's why they always venerate the Democrats. Like when you talk about Kamala Harris and stuff like that, because the inception of the gender war frequency is the inception of it is based on the fact that they have to keep us apart. that's what, you know what I'm saying, when you understand the principles of their of the Democrats, of how they propagate certain things in their agenda, because the inception of their whole thing is based on um, divide and conquer, and divide and conquer is based on a eugenics system. So if you can divide many people that's acclimated to a certain agenda that's being propagated through the government, that's how you get black people to, you know what I'm saying, go against each other. So like I said, that's why they use so many things as far as like telling, you know, certain celebrities to push this, push homosexuality, to push transgenderism, to push all these types of things. That's why they do the things they do, and they always use black celebrities to use that. So, like I said, that's based on eugenics, and the eugenics is coming from the inception of democracy.
Okay, that's a great point you brought up about them pushing that, and them putting it in movies as well. Thinking about the Matrix movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
I watched that, the one that just came out about last year or 2 years ago, and I was thinking about how a lot of conscious people were talking about how they were trying to, like, the message of the movie was to show the power of the divine feminine uniting, what you just said, right? So, right, when it comes to that, right, when it comes to the movies, do you see a lot of men in their feminine as well?
Yeah, most of the time when I'm watching movies, like I said, is everything is based on asymmetrical warfare. So it's basically like a covert operation. So when I'm watching certain movies, you can tell that there's always an agenda. So they always have the black woman, she's over sexualized, and then you have the black man, he's emasculated. And then, with that being said, this is where you get the inception of interracial dating. So because
Mm,
they basically emasculate the black man, and then they have the European man with the black woman, and they have the European man basically the foundation of the masculine energy. So it's kind of like one of those things that's based on genetical self-preservation, because they know that the precession of the equinox of the 24,000 purification period, they know that this is the last reincarnation cycle. So that means that you have to acclimate yourself to a certain bloodline to be reincarnated back on this planet.
wow, that's deep. So this is a curse, and what makes you say this is a curse?
The reason it's a curse is because, like I said, it's one of those things where um, the sleep spell was based on materialism.
Hmm.
That is what cultivates the whole matrix system in itself. So the sleep spell is when you under the sleep spell of Kingu, which is under the lunar cycle. Since we coming out of the lunar cycle, we in the sun cycle, which is the Aquarian energy. So the Aquarian age is the golden age. So that's why during the golden age, you're supposed to unify. When you look at all ancient civilizations, all these kingdoms and everything was built during the sun cycle, right? During the golden age,
Hmm.
because the inception of the planet was a sun cycle. That was the first 6,000 years of the precession of the equinox. So how do you build civilizations? You build an autonomous civilization based on the unification of the divine feminine and the divine masculine, which is under the Kemetic principles of the laws of Mayat. Everything reaps the benefits of balance. If the man is over emasculated because he's emotional, he's unbalanced. If the woman's over masculine and she's not in her feminine energy, she's unbalanced. So, like I
Hmm.
said, you have to find that way to where you operate in a 0 point energy to where you can cultivate um, your resources together to build a civilization. So that's why a lot of, so-called black people, we only own 3% of the world's wealth. That's because the inception of it is based on unity. You got to unify, and you got to unify and procreate with your own people. Not because it's based on racism, but you also want to preserve a certain bloodline.
Wow, that's powerful, Bdell. You dropping jewels, man. You definitely dropping jewels. So the next topic, right? Um, let's talk about the polarity. When it comes to the polarity, right? Getting away from masculine and feminine. I was even telling you a lot of men are scared to get into their feminine energy because it's so we gotta have balance. But a lot of men are scared to get into their feminine energy because is called feminine. So there's like everything is a label. When people hear, oh, this word, they hear the word and they immediately are feared because they hear that word feminine. The same thing with masculine, like it's vice versa. So what's your take on, what's your perspective on polarity when it comes to this gender war?
Okay, well,
what's the solution?
Well, the solution is self-mastery. So you have to go through a process of self-realization. You got to understand who you are intuitively, and you got to understand yourself enough to where you love yourself. If you don't love your own self, how can you give love to somebody else? And that the inception of it, like I said, is based on self-mastery. So duality is not reality. So anything that's dealing with polarity is an illusion. So the only way to, cultivate that energy of self-mastery, you got to be operating at 0 point energy, meaning that you got to have an autonomous form of tranquility to where you're not being manipulated by outside stimulation. So that's the thing, though. You gotta love yourself enough to where you don't need external forces to infiltrate your frequency. So that's the problem with a lot of niggas nowadays. That's the problem with a lot of women. A lot of them, you know what I'm saying, they don't understand who they are intuitively. Some people don't have enough, they don't love themselves enough to the point where they can be alone. If you don't know how to be alone, you know what I'm saying, what makes you think that you're going to be able to, tap into the energy of somebody else and try to build something.
Right. That's powerful. Solitude is definitely something that I've been in solitude for so long, and before I even put myself out there, I knew that I had to be more healed, because you're right. What you just said, solitude is something that is very powerful.
Mm-hmm. Because like solitude is based on, like, for instance, the best way to get into the energy of solitude. First, you got to change your mind, because when you change your mind, you change your vibration. That vibration becomes magnetism. So that's how you cultivate your energetic space. When you cultivate your own energetic space to where you have this kind of like it's like an energy bubble to where you can't be penetrated. That's how you got to look at things before, you start giving your energy to a man, or you start giving your energy to a woman. You got to know yourself intuitively. But like I said, most people don't know themselves, so that's part of the sleep spell. Because when you don't know yourself, you start looking for external forces. So this is where you start going to the damn club. Now you need to go get some weed. You got to get some liquor.
Oh,
do all these things. You need all these afflictions and all these vices in order to compensate for the lack thereof, because you don't love yourself. So that's why I'm saying the sleep spell is the material world. Everything's internal. So when you start looking at things internally, that's when you're going to be able to love yourself enough to where you can unify the divine feminine and the divine masculine.
Self-love.
Yeah.
Self-love. So also go into the about the left side of the brain versus the right side of the brain.
Mm-hmm.
You were saying how it's a thing that the women use the right side of the brain, while men use the left side of the brain, which men are more logical based, while women are more emotional based. But you told me something different. You told me something that was like unheard of. So you got to put us on game, put the viewers on game to what you said.
Well, I mean, everything, when you understand the propagation of right knowledge, that was the foundation of Dr. Malachi Z. York's teachings, was right knowledge, because right knowledge is acclimated to righteousness. So with that being said, in order to become a genius, you got to be a whole brain thinker. So what happens is, when you have the magnetites and the dendrites, they basically create the activation to the neurotransmitters to where it ties both hemispheres of the brain together, to where you can use your left side of left brain and right brain working in synergy. It's one of those things where, like, westernized culture, what they do is they socialize the great majority of people to be left brain. That's your analytical side. Your spirituality and how you do everything internally, that and everything on the righteous level, that's coming from the right side of the brain. So that's why when you look at certain things in the ideograms and the hieroglyphics and all these ancient tombs, that's because they was tapped into the energy of right knowledge. So like I said, it's one of those things where that's also conducive to the fact that that embarks upon the energy of the relationships as well. Because, like I said, if you've been brought up and socialized um, to be left brain dominant, you know what I'm saying, it's going to be kind of hard for you to, to tap into the energy of love when you're trying to find a so-called soulmate.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Okay. You also said about the right side is the rightful side, the righteousness
Yeah.
as well. Okay. I like that. I like that. I like that. So another thing that's going on with this gender war, a lot of people, a lot of women, a lot of men, um, they don't feel understood. You know what I'm saying? They don't feel understood when it comes to this whole relationship thing. Like they feel like in their past relationship, they didn't feel understood by their you know what I'm saying, their spouse. They didn't feel understood by their boyfriend or girlfriend. And a lot of people just feel misunderstood, and it makes people depressed. It makes people cry. It makes people go into depression. It makes people just in an energy that they just don't feel themselves. So, what's the solution for people feeling misunderstood?
Well, like I said, you gotta self-love. So in order to understand anybody, you gotta understand your damn self first.
Right, right.
A lot of people, they deal with a lot of afflictions that was, haunting them in their past relationships, and they bring that energy into the other relationships. So it's one of those things where, like, it's kind of like a woman. Like, for instance, there's a lot of women who dated like a lot of street niggas, and then she tries to transition over into dating somebody who is self-affirming, somebody who's intelligent. The reason, the dynamic of the understanding is not there is because she's trying to use that same energy that she was using with them street niggas. Is now she's trying to embark upon a man that, what I'm saying, who's probably more intelligent and is not living on that street life. So that's why I'm saying, like, the inception of the problem is, so you gotta go through a process of self-realization. You gotta come to terms with your own shortcomings and afflictions and vices that you dealt with in your past relationships in order to get to the next level and to date somebody that you actually deserve and understand
Mm, okay. All goes down to that heart. All goes down to the heart. Loving yourself, to self. All right. So, a lot of people too. This has to be brought up. This must be brought up for this type of discussion. But a lot of people, when it comes to this, to the gender war that's going on, a lot of people really feel like their partner is going to cheat on them. They really feel like their partner is going to cheat on them. They have trust issues. A lot of people watching this can probably agree they've been cheated on at least once or twice. And it's not to say there's not cheaters out here. There definitely are cheaters out here. But when it comes to the world, how do you heal yourself from being cheated on? How do you heal yourself? Because that's the main reason why this gender war is even a big thing in the first place too. Because people always think, okay, I got cheated on before. My next partner, I don't trust them. Like it's like it comes back to them, and then they got this program, this trauma in them that's still like, okay, my partner may cheat on me, even though they don't want to believe it. It's like something in them is like haunted, and that goes down to the healing. But I want to hear your perspective.
it's one of those things where it's based on the fact that it's connected to materialism. A lot of people feel like they're not good enough because they don't have that car, or they don't have those shoes, or they don't have a lot of things that's going to basically connect them to a certain man or a certain woman, because they feel like they're not uh, they're trying to compensate for the lack thereof, and they don't have the resources to do so. So a lot of people say that a man's masculinity is connected to his money. So if you're not bringing in enough resources or whatever, that man is not going to feel like a man. And if he's dating a woman, he's going to feel emasculated in his mind, since he's not being a provider, because you're here to provide and protect the woman. He's going to feel like she's probably cheating on him. So the same thing, what I'm saying, when it comes to women. Like with women, if she's dating, what I'm saying, if some women, they end up dating players and stuff like that, and they try to bring that, that energy into the next relationship. So, like I said, it's one of those things where you got to go through a process of self initiation. You got to heal.
So a lot of
so you got to detoxify. You got to
a process of
detoxify.
solitude.
Yeah, you got to solitude. Like I said, you got to practice detachment. So sometimes, you know what I'm saying, some people, they afraid to be alone so much they just start jumping in relationships. Sometimes you got to build that relationship within yourself before you start giving yourself to somebody else. Sometimes, you know what I'm saying, that shit take like 6 months to a year, maybe 2 years for you to heal. But that's the problem, though. You have a lot of people who are going through trauma bonding. They come together based upon certain things that they was dealing in their past, and the relationship never works out. So this is why, you know, the great majority of relationships or marriages, they only last for like 30 minutes. Because like I said, they're not dealing with the trauma, bro.
You said 30 minutes?
Yeah. Basically.
Oh my God, you said 30 minutes. Yeah, that's something that even in a lot of these big cities like, you know, LA, Atlanta, New York, a lot of these relationships are very superficial and they're very on the surface. They're very broad, and people are just, they're very like surface level nowadays, and their relationships usually only last about 30 days to maybe 3 months.
I'm gonna tell you why. Because it's based on the fact that it's based on sexual gratification. So,
okay.
Like, it's, you know what I'm saying, everybody's been through it, you know what I'm saying? You had your one night stands, but some people really try to build relationships on that. So like I said, that creates the energy of insecurity. So if you thinking like, well, shit, she gave me the ass the first night, she probably doing the same thing to the next nigga. So that creates a form of insecurity, because now you with that woman, you thinking like, damn, I hit that the first night, and now she probably doing the same thing with all these other people. It's the same type of energy. So
yeah, I can see. I definitely see what you mean. So when you really want like a wifey, like you want to wife this woman, she's beautiful, she got a good spirit, she got good intentions. You know, she don't disrespect you, she don't use her mouth to disrespect you. You're saying that it's best not to sleep with them until like some time, like wait like a week or a month. That's what you're saying.
One thing I tell people: if you don't have a mental connection, you don't have nothing.
Okay.
Emotional connection. You know what I'm saying? That can basically dematerialize over time. A sexual connection, that can dematerialize over time. If you don't have that mental connection, you don't have nothing, because a mental connection is more sustainable. You see what I'm saying? It has a lot more longevity, because you, like I said, if your relationship is based on sex, it's one of those things where like shit. Some guys like pizza, but they don't want it every night. Same thing can come when it comes to certain women. They don't want to keep having to sleep with that woman. It's going to get old to you after a while. But when you have a mental connection, you can always build on top of it.
Yeah. What's the difference between, I didn't mean to cut you out, what's the difference between a mental connection and a spiritual connection? Because some people believe that your mind is intertwined with your spirit. So mental health is linked to spiritual health. So what's the difference between that when it comes to you? Like some people put the spiritual connection first.
Well, when you understand the laws of Tahuti, everything tells you that all is mental. So mentalism and spirituality works in synergy. Because your neurological faculties is not in order to reap the benefits of balance, you're not at a spiritual level.
Yeah, that was a great point you talked about the one night stands. Okay. So when it comes overall about the gender war, if you could put it into one sentence, what's the solution if you was to put it all in one sentence for everyone watching right now?
Self-love.
Self-love.
The reason I say self-love first is because if you have self-love, that's when you can create unity. If you don't, you're not going to get any type of autonomous unity if you don't love yourself. Because then, like I said, it can create an energy to where you're going to try to compensate for the lack thereof by pulling on other people's energy. You're going to bring them down. So in order to build, you got to love yourself. But that's the thing, though. That's what westernized, the westernized civilizations do. Everything is based on external stimulation. You know what I'm saying? Like everything is based on vanity. Everything is based on outside perception. So, like I said, that's under the sleep spell. Everything is external. They don't want you to go internal.
Okay, do you feel like a man? This is a great question. So, a lot of women are attracted to a man who can stimulate her mind. Do you feel
Mm-hmm.
like? Do you feel like 'cause that's called sapiosexual?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like a man is our duty as a divine masculine to stimulate the woman's mind in a relationship?
Yeah, because at some point in time you got to be a teacher.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying? You got to teach the women. You know, there's certain things that women they don't know. You know what I'm saying? So it's your duty to, in order to guide and that woman in the right direction, and you can only use that with your basically your mental power. If you don't possess any type of intelligence, it's going to be hard for you to keep that woman. If you look at certain relationships, like I've seen educated women date street dudes purposely, and that's because, like I said, they can control them. That's the great majority of women, they date a dumb street dude or whatever. That some women don't even want to deal with a man who's very intelligent. That's because they know they cannot control that man. So it's easy to control somebody when they don't possess a certain type of intelligence. It's easy to control them.
good topic. So basically, like as a man, be her teacher, be her protector, and her builder. Because I hear a lot of people talk about, oh, just be her protector, be her builder. But it's also our duty to be her teacher. Is what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you definitely got to put her up on game because, like I said, you don't want to have, you know what I'm saying, the brain activity of an empty cup. You know what I'm saying? It's just one of those things where, man,
Yeah, yeah.
because this is the thing, though. A lot of people, what westernized culture does, they think that a man holding up a lot of money, they think that's like masculine energy, when really it's actually in reverse. Masculinity is based upon you having a supreme mind and supreme thinking, being an intellectual, you know what I'm saying, keeping yourself together to where you're balanced. So that's like the masculine energy in itself is, you know, being able to hold your own on the mental level and on the physical level at the same time. So that's how you cultivate the energy of how you protect your woman in certain civilizations back in during the ancient times. So it's like one of those things where, man, they propagate like through the rap industry or whatever. Some women think that a man is not masculine if he doesn't have stacks of money. So, but that energy is basically starting to basically be depleted now because women are starting to see certain things. They can see beyond the illusion so much to the point that they know that the money is, you know what I'm saying, that's not the foundation on how you carry a certain relationship because they know that shit don't last. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, yeah. Wait, you really said that though? You really said that? You said that some women don't feel like a man is masculine if he doesn't have enough money?
yeah, you never seen chicks that only date dudes that just got money. They think that's like masculine.
Yeah. No, I definitely heard of that, but I don't know. Like I feel like that means you can like protect her and secure, but
But when you just kind of look, when you just observe, sometimes some things it's kind of just it's right in front of your face, like
mm,
you can see it.
yeah,
That's
you can
why.
see it.
That's
Yeah.
why. That's why when you look at the European, he's basically the epitome of masculine energy. When you look at certain TV shows, because he has what? He has the bag. He has the resources. He has the business. You know what I'm saying? He's the boss.
Mm, okay, you
That's
made
why,
it.
bro.
You like it
Look,
good. Yeah, I like that.
look. When you watch, you know what I'm saying, I hate Tyler Perry so much. I hate him.
Yeah.
But when you watch some of his movie, it shows you. When you should see, I forgot what the movie was called, but they had the black man. He was very hard working. He didn't really have a good job. But the black woman, she had a really good job, but she had a veneration for her boss. He was the boss. He was the epitome of masculine energy, and she ended up sleeping with him. That's because, like I said, the perception of masculinity is connected to materialism now. It's not.
Mm.
The power went out, so my Wi-Fi is not going to be on. So
Oh, that's good. That's good. Thank y'all for staying in here. We still had 100 people staying, so that's as long as we have people present. You do sound good. Let me make sure y'all hear everyone. Let me look in the comments. Make sure y'all can
it's
hear.
a big old storm outside.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Y'all slide back in here. Y'all climb out back in. We got backup plans. He's using his phone right now, so yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's a really good episode. Very, very good episode, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Power went out.
yep.
Really? Hold on. I'm if I have more.
Hold on for a second.
Okay.
If I have more lighting. Hello?
Yeah, there we go.
Hold on, I think my Wi-Fi might be back on. Hold on. I'm gonna try this again. I might be able to get back on.
Okay.
I just seen my Wi-Fi on my.
You know this is an exclusive episode and all type of things going on, weather and technical difficulties. Oh no, like
Yeah, it's the second time this week the power went out.
Hmm.
Yeah, because we've been having a lot of storms. So I'm about to hop back on here on the when I get it back onto the whatchamacallit on the computer.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you can answer me some questions until then.
All right, so the next question we're gonna go into, right? How long, this being like about the gender war going on, right? How long does it take to heal the heart chakra? Because a lot of people who've been hurt, right? How long would it take for them to heal the heart chakra?
Well, like I said, there's no duration period on when it comes to healing. Everybody, you know what I'm saying, we on this planet, we going through many different experiences. So, it's a trial and error process. You know what I'm saying? Because things as you go. So the healing in itself is a whole journey, and that journey is acclimated to your spiritual. So hold on, let me get that.
He's about to hop on his other one. So we all good. We all good. Thank you everyone for tuning in. We got Real Kia coming on next week, next Friday, and this is going to be her interview. So she's going to debut. All right. So I'm excited for that. All right. Let's see what y'all saying. Yeah. He's a sneakerhead.
Yeah, I'm done.
You got all them sneakers, bro. All them sneakers you got, bro.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, someone said you a sneakerhead.
A little bit. Man. It's one of those things I use as one of my incomes. I resell and stuff like that because I know people are into it. I told you I used to play basketball. I played Division II basketball. I used to be really good. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you gotta show us one of your gameplays one day, man. See how you was balling out here.
That was nice.
You was nice.
Yeah, I played varsity all 4 years. I was good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah. So when it comes to going to the next topic, semen retention. Do you feel like it's mandatory for a man to go hold his energy when it comes to him attracting the right divine feminine?
Mm-hmm. Got to, you know what I'm saying? You got to maintain that self-discipline. If you don't, I tell people all the time, if you don't have enough discipline, you know what I'm saying, that's going to embark into a relationship. Because if you ain't got no self-discipline and you always masturbating, you're going to try to look for outside stimulation. You're going to start seeking other women. So like I said, if any man that is in control of his sexual energy, that's what makes him a masculine man. Because some people think that, sleeping with a lot of chicks, they think that's the foundation of masculine energy. So when it's not. So especially right now, as the planet is going through a metamorphic shift, you want to preserve that sexual energy also, not just for for individualistic purposes, but also just for spiritual and ascension reasons also.
Yeah, you was telling me one time we was talking on the phone. You also told me that that when you hold your sexual energy, when you hold that semen, you said that it turns. Remember that theory you told me? It turns into a what? Can you explain that if you mind? If it's okay.
It's kind of like the same process of you hold your sexual energy for 6 months. That energy of the serpentine kundalini energy, it can transmute into a dragon, to where you're able to leave this realm. So what I'm saying is, like, when you look at the Caucasus symbol in ancient Egypt and ancient Kemetic science or whatever, they show you the Caucasus symbol with the wings on the sides of it, because they know that the kundalini energy, you're able to control that biotonic energy. You control your semen. That is your sexual energy and your spirituality is connected to each other. So if you're always draining yourself, you're not going to get those downloads. You're not going to get those prophetic dreams. You're not going to be able to do higher dimensional travel. You need that. That's your sexual energy. Your semen is basically like fuel to navigate through the galaxies. Am I glitching?
No. Oh, actually, you was glitching a little bit, but it's not bad. You only glitched like 2 times.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not bad though. Yeah.
So you have access to the cosmic keys of galactic travel when you use your semen as a fuel to leave this planet, because the energy of your semen is connected to the frequency of the soul. So that's why when you see certain people, when they go talking about, oh well, she had to sleep with this person to get this rap deal, that's the same concept of losing your soul. Or when you talking about when you in the bedroom with a woman, she's like, oh, I took that nigga's soul, right? Because like your semen and all that stuff is connected to the energy and the frequency of the soul. So you can't be depleting yourself. You gotta basically preserve that energy.
So basically, a woman could basically take your soul, is what you're saying.
No, that's just a concept. But they just know that the enzymes and stuff of the semen is connected to the soul.
So they could take pieces of it. A little, they could drain your soul.
They can drain your soul, but they can't take it. Yeah,
they can't take it. Right. Yeah, that goes into all that theories about selling your soul. You can't really sell your soul. You can only
sell your soul. You can only sell your integrity.
Your integrity,
right? It's like when you talking about people selling their soul, they just putting their morals and principles aside for a bag or for an opportunity. But like I said, you still have your soul while you're on this planet. At the same time, when you lose your life or whatever, so something happens. Now, something in the higher dimensions can keep you encapsulated on this planet as a prison. So, like I said, you could be in a perpetual state of reincarnation, which is not a divine concept.
That's some real deep downloads, man. We're going down the rabbit hole. We're really going down the rabbit hole. Yeah. So something I preached about, even on my Instagram. On my Instagram, I was telling people about this gender war, and I was telling people to go on, because this is what I used to do. I used to do this before I even hopped on Instagram. I mean, before I even started putting myself out there more. I would go on social media breaks. And social media breaks, I personally feel like can transform your life, because it allows you to know what you think and see what you think. Because a lot of people are always looking at what other people think. But if you are off social media, you're only seeing what you think, what you know, so you make your reality in light speed. Like you manifest in light speed, because it's just you. It's just you. Being selfish in this world sometimes is good. And a lot of people aren't selfish no more. A lot of people are selfless. And this is why people have trouble with their worth. This is why people have to date everyone, because they don't really know themselves. So what's your opinion on social media breaks?
Yeah, you need social media breaks because instant gratification basically plagued this generation. So when I'm talking about instant gratification, it's one of those things where some people can't even cultivate their own ideas because they've been mentally stimulated by all these energies. When you're going through your phone or whatever, you got all those energies. Sometimes you need to detox from that to where you can cultivate your own mind. So that's how you take back your own power. You take back your brain power. You take back your energy. You need those social media breaks or whatever. It's a form of mental detoxification. So you definitely need that.
Mental detoxification.
Yeah. So some people they don't have the ability to think for themselves because they don't know how to take social media breaks. So that, you know what I'm saying? So it's also one of those things where it can embark into the relationship too. So you need a social media because this is why some when they go on Instagram, they be like, "Ooh, Lil Durk got such and such. This he got her bag," and he thinks that you're supposed to perpetuate that same energy because it creates this mental delusion, right? It creates a mental delusion, which is a psychological egregore, which creates behavior modification. So when you see certain things on social media, you try to emulate it. And when you don't have the resources to emulate what the celebrities are doing in relationships, that puts you in a state of depression. So that's why some people, you know what I'm saying, they get depressed when they on Instagram, when they see certain relationships and, you know, they relationship shit. That's because, like I said, it creates that dynamic to where you need outside stimulation.
Right. Yeah, you know, I got this concept. I learned this concept, and shout out to Spiritual Soul, Illuminati, because he said it himself. He said Instagram was made to destroy you. He literally said that out of his voice. And the more I be on Instagram, the more I realize it's like you gotta watch who you follow. You gotta watch the type of pages you're listening to, because it's literally made to destroy you if you're following the wrong type of people. If you're following these people who are always showing the best life, but not what's really going on, because Instagram is a highlight reel. It's a highlight reel. So when you're on Instagram, you think people really living like abundantly, like all the time. Nah, bro. People got family problems. People got all type of things going on and lawsuits and all type of things going on behind the scenes. But that's why Instagram is taking breaks. I totally agree with you on that, Bdell. Taking breaks is very powerful because it gives you that mental. I'm gonna start using that too. That mental detoxification.
Yeah, you definitely need it. Because, like I said, you know, that creates sensory overload. Sometimes you just gotta be, you know, deviate from it. You know, sometimes you gotta spend, you know, a good amount of time away from your phone. But when it comes to being a content creator, some people really think that you on your phone all day. I post and I get off. I have my phone in my hand all day. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just can't deal. It's hard to deal with, you know. So
yeah, and then on top of that, the EMF alone that can literally. I'm reading a book right now. That EMF in your phone, when you hold a phone in your hand, it blows out your aura. When you hold it too long, if you put it to your face, it can blow out your aura. I gotta find the name of that book, but yeah, being on your phone too much is like just holding it on your hand, that EMF, and then on top of that, you're looking at all this. You're seeing women do this and men do that, and you feeling like, oh, your relationship's falling apart. Your vibration is so low. It's your vibration is lower than ever. And then you go to nature, you take a walk down the river, and you have no phone on you. You feel like a god. You feel like a king. You feel like an empress. You feel like an emperor because you're now connected to yourself. And we have the ability to channel in and to get higher information and higher, you know, knowledge from ourselves. It's called the Akashic Records. That itself is technology. So yeah, you know, this is just a lower form of technology, and yeah, that's one thing I'm learning. I appreciate that Bdell for that download, that deep download. When it comes to this gender war, we're gonna answer some questions as well. We are gonna go through the comments and try to get some questions in as well. So y'all ask some questions. Y'all ask some questions about relationships. Maybe we're gonna try to give you guys insight. We're gonna let Bdell guide these questions. Okay. Okay, so soul ties. Let's go into soul ties. So, soul ties. What I've heard from Brother Yosef. This is I had a personal consultation with Brother Yosef. He told me that soul ties, they can last about 7 years. That's what I heard. He told me that, and I believe if you are like, you know, intimate with a person, that soul tie could take a long time. And soul ties, I feel like obviously happens when you know you do the good, But what's your take on that, Bdell?
What, soul ties?
Yeah.
Well, like I said, the mind is the frequency of the soul. So, like I said, you can't have a soulmate if you don't have a mental connection. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
You got to cultivate that mental connection. If you don't have a mental connection, your relationship or whatever you're trying to build, there is no sustainability behind it.
And I heard that mental connection also has a lot to do with communication as well. Mm-hmm. Communication is like, yeah. Okay. Yeah, y'all asked some questions about this. We tapped on a lot of the gender war already. We tapped in a lot about it already. Anything else you want to tap in about it, Bdell? Any free knowledge you got about it?
As far as what?
About just overall.
The gender wars?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Deviate from the perception of westernized culture when it comes to relationships. If you start following their teachings and you get back into your original teachings, that's how you're able to galvanize your resources and come together and unify. You can't unify, you know what I'm saying? You can't use ancient spiritual practices when it comes to unifying the divine feminine and the divine masculine. You can't bring that into a patriarchal type of civilization. It's not going to work because that's not how their system works. So in order to deviate from it, you got to get away from it. You got to get away from the veneration of the money when it comes to relationship. You got to get away from all that shit. Because everything that's connected to the great majority of these relationships now is connected to emotional energy. Because what they do is they supplicate your emotions and they transmute it into a weakness. And now your weakness is connected to material. So now you need material in order to maintain that relationship. So since material is not sustainable, it doesn't have any longevity. Now your damn relationship ain't got no longevity because your relationship was connected to materialism.
So for all the fellas watching, do you feel like them working on their material possessions is like a must since it's the time we're living in? What do you got to say to all the fellas watching?
I couldn't hear you. What you say again?
What do you have to say to all the fellas watching who wanna know like if that's what they should do? They just should focus on their material possessions when it comes to
what I tell people all the time. Sometimes you got to use the matrix in order to get out.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is like, don't have a veneration for material things so much to the point where you lose yourself. Use it as a stepping stone to get out of your situation. Some people, like I said, they don't have the ability to deviate from external forces. Like the way I set up my crib, you know what I'm saying? This is my energetic space. I don't need to go nowhere. You know what I'm saying? I don't need outside stimulation. Everything I got in my house is what I needed. So you gotta. That's how you build up your frequency. You gotta build it up so much to the point where you're not having, external stimulation infiltrating your energy. So that's the best way to, you got to use the matrix in order to build your own spirituality. You gotta use your resources.
Yeah, that's a good point you just said. Yeah, we got a comment. She said, this person said, MG Farm. He said, I honestly think it's too late to try and undo the damage. People are hurt beyond repair.
I agree. Some of that stuff is acclimated to their karmic cycle. Some people came to this planet to go through a trauma and afflictions because of what they done in their past life. So some people is not going to be able to experience love. They're not going to be able to experience solitude. They're not going to be able to experience the unification of the divine feminine and the divine masculine. They're not going to experience that. So some people are on this planet as a sentence, like a prison sentence, because this is a prison planet. So you got to go through a certain experience in order to graduate from this three-dimensional matrix system.
You feel like this is the worst planet to be on?
Yeah, because it's imperishable. And the reason I say that is because everything on this planet is connected to the fact that it's all based on outside stimulation, which makes you an antichrist. Because anytime you anti yourself, you are the antichrist because you are the Christ energy, the Christos. That is the God mind. So you're not operating in your godhood when you need outside stimulation. So, like I said, this is a prison planet. You're a light body trapped inside of a light prism, which is a prison. Anytime you slow down everything in vibration and density, it condenses down into a three-dimensional level where you have physical reality starts to take place, which is, carbon. Carbon is the building block of all civilization.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Like I said, this is a prison planet, though. Yeah.
Dang, that's crazy. I like how you said that question. That's a good question. I like your point on that because what I'll say on this real quick, I do feel like definitely the reality is we can be optimistic about healing and all that, but the reality is some people are really damaged. Like, go outside and walk to the club and look at, like, just take a look, like, see what's taking place with your two eyes. Just look at people and just watch people, and you're gonna be like, dang, like, where am I? You don't be like, where am I? Because it's like people stoop so low, and it's like they get hurt so much. There's some woman on this planet, they've been with over like 200 men, and they're always the right one. They're always right. They're always the man's always wrong. They're always right. And same thing with men too. Like, some people make the same mistakes over and over again. So just throwing on to what you said, the reality is some people are really damaged and they won't heal. Like, we got another question from the same person. How do women being celibate get up out of this matrix? I'm gonna let you answer that, Bdell.
How do women being celibate get us up out of this matrix? I'm not understanding that question.
That's that question again. I'm not really understanding that question as much. Because you can't get out the matrix 100%. You can, like, meditate to escape the matrix, but you can't leave the matrix until you pass until you pass on to another dimension. Yeah.
So that's why, the matrix system, like I explained in my last video on my YouTube channel, what I was basically saying was, the grid system projection is connected to the planet. When you look at the word planet, the suffix of the word, you got net, N-E-T. That is the grid system, which is the biotonic grid that works on the quadrants of the moon, that keeps you encapsulated on this planet in the form of a soul trap. So everything is based on the soul trap on this planet because you got many different monolithic structures and buildings built on certain ley lines.
Okay, so we have a question from how to release demon energy from them forces that be. I'm gonna let you answer that first.
Detoxification. Like I said, you need a mental detox, you need a spiritual detox, you need a dietary detox. That's the best way. But the foundation of it is based on discipline. Anything you can't fast from, you will become a slave to it. When you look at the word fast, it's an acronym, which is you fast from food, you fast from alcohol, you fast from sex, and then the T is a representation of transmutation, and you transmutate that energy as an alchemical resource to where you're able to cultivate your own energy in the form of mastery. So you're gonna always be acclimated to a demonic energy if you don't master yourself.
Yeah, I like that point. Yeah, how to release demon energy from the forces that be. My take would definitely be to definitely meditate and figure out what kind of demon it is. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what kind of demon are you talking about? Because it's like there's higher demons and there's lower demons. So it could just be like your darkness, because all of us have a dark side. All of us have our own shadows. So it could just be your own shadows. Sometimes it is. It could be your diet, because some of us have sensitive bodies. Like, I have a very sensitive body. So if I eat a lot of bull crap food, I'm gonna feel very low vibrational. So if you are eating, like, you're drinking alcohol and all that, that's the demon energy you're drinking. You're drinking it. drink, you putting the demons inside of you. And same thing with like you're eating a lot of packaged foods and McDonald's, you're gonna think you have demon energy in you because those foods aren't really natural. So definitely detox, like he said. I definitely agree with you. Bdell, detox is detoxification mentally, spiritually, and physically. Even your house, like a lot of people got dirty cribs. So like actually, like you see Bdell's places clean, like actually like cleaning your house and making sure like the places are clean. That's actually gonna keep your home demon free.
Yep, and because demons love to vibrate in filth. Like I said before, your sacred energetic space is an emulation of what's going on with you mentally and spiritually. So if your room is a mess, your motherfucking life is a mess. Your house is a mess, your motherfucking life is a mess. Because when you even look at people's cars or whatever, when you go inside their car, all that is an emulation of what's going on with them internally. So in order to release the demon energy, start cleaning up. You know what I'm saying? Even if you already a clean person, that means you need to tap into your spirituality. Start to sage up the crib a lot more. You know what I'm saying? There's many different ways to deviate from the demonic frequency. But it's like I said, everything is based on discipline because you got to have discipline in order to, to galvanize and keep your sacred energetic space, keep it, clean and nice and neat and organized. You know what I'm saying? But like that's one of the path of the spirit of Melchizedek when you're going through a process of being an adept. When you're in the process of being an adept, that creates a militant mind to where you have a certain organization skills because everything on the planet moves on a logistical order, meaning that it's in structure. So that's how your mind has to be. Your mind has to be in structure. Your mind has to be in balance. Your mind has to be has an organized frequency. Because when your mind perpetuates that same energy, that's going to embark on your own reality.
It's a great touch. Great touch. All right, we got a question from. Well, this person wants to know your YouTube channel. His YouTube channel is Bdell1014.
Yes,
and, yeah.
That's my nomenclature title at the bottom.
Yes. So this is a good question. This person said, adrenaline flux. Do some people deserve the trauma, from their toxic relationship? I'm gonna let you touch on that.
Yeah, some people they come to this planet to have a trauma bond. Like I said, it's meant for them to go through that experience because of certain things that they did in the past. Like I said before, everybody is not going to be able to reap the benefits of having a soulmate. It's not meant for them to. They got to go through many different. I look at trauma as a way of going through. You ever seen those schools or whatever? You get kicked out of high school, you got to go to the bad school. It's like it's like a rehabilitation school.
Yeah, you gotta give your phone, all that. Phone, all that.
I look at that as trauma, like traumatized relationships. I look at that the same way I see like kids get kicked out of a school and they got to go to the bad school. So now you got to go through an elevation process in order to get to the next level. It's like going through different degrees of, scholarship.
Now that's a good way to look at it because sometimes, I know we all have that friend. Everyone watching has a friend who's just like in a toxic relationship or someone you used to know who stays in a toxic relationship, and you're just like, why are you in that relationship? Like, that person obviously doesn't have the best intentions for you, and every time someone does something to you, they know what they were doing when they did it, and you're still with them. So keep that in mind. Every time someone does something to you, they know what they did when they did it to you. So
and then I tell people all the time, there's a lot of misconception when it comes to love. Love can also be a demon. Because you can love somebody so much to the point where it can infiltrate your own energy and bring you down. I've seen women in relationships love a man so much, and he was whooping her ass and everything. She loved him so much that she stayed in that relationship. You got some men, they love a woman so much that she'll let him disrespect her. She cheating on him and everything. So like I said, you have to be very meticulous when it comes to the energy of love, because love can also be a demon, depending on what frequency you're on.
The quote you just gave me. You gave me the quote where they said, "Number X said love is evil, or love is no." He said love is war. He said love is war, and that was one of the last pictures he posted before he passed. Love is Love is war. Even when you love someone, I truly believe you have to be able to handle the dark side. You know, you have to be able to handle the cons of it. Everyone is not all love and light, so you have to be able to be realistic when you come to your relationships. That realistic energy is gonna help.
See, everything,
Mm.
we live in a Luciferian society. Everything is the foundation of a false light. And the false light is the perception of the false propagation of love. So, like I said, in order to reap the benefits of love, you got to go through that chaos energy. You know what I'm saying? You got to go to the dark side. Everything that's all love and light, that ain't love.
I'm glad you said that. I'm really glad you said that because the dark side, tapping into the dark side allows you to balance things. Allows you to balance things.
Some people think being spiritual is about being positive. You know what I'm saying? You got to be, you know what I'm saying? That has nothing to do with spirituality. Spirituality has nothing to do with being a good person. You know what I'm saying? It's all about mastering yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, just as much, you know what I'm saying, that I tap into the information and I do my own edification, I can use that same energy if I gotta, be on 10 with somebody like what's popping, because I can still gotta protect myself.
Right,
You know what
right.
I'm saying? So don't let spirituality, the perception of it, make you so weak to the point where people are pulling on your energy. You're not here to save everybody. You're here to save your damn self.
You touched on that really well.
Mm-hmm.
Touched on that really well. Yep, a lot of people, me touching on this, like a lot of people really do feel like the spiritual community, a lot of people in the spiritual community, they got crystals on and, all love and light and,
I ain't loving light.
we all walk around and, you stab us and it's nah. we gonna get our revenge, you know what I'm saying? We normal people, we got emotions.
Just as much as I am spiritual, I will cuss you out in a minute if I feel like you're doing something that's infiltrating my own energy, because I'm very meticulous about who I keep around me. I'm an introvert. I don't like hanging out with a lot of people. So that's another way of how I cultivate and maintain my peace and my own tranquility. So once people learn how to do that, they use that same concept and they use that to build themselves up and then try to get in a relationship. You can use that as well, so you got to have a relationship with yourself.
Yes. All right, we got let me see this question. Let's see. So he said, why, when you on semen retention, people are jealous?
That's because your semen retention, the energy of it has a energetic morphic field, and your energetic morphic field is connected to your nervous system, and your nervous system is connected to your neurological faculties. And then once your neurological faculties in a state of balance, it creates a color band, and that color band has a color spectrum, which creates your morphic field. So that's when you see certain people who are in alignment, they literally have an aura around them. That's because, like I said, they protecting their energy, because all your energy, like I said, is your semen is basically the fuel of in order to tap into the navigation of the cosmos. That is your cosmic key, is your semen. You need that energy. Just imagine try to drive to New York and you only got a quarter tank of gas. You're not gonna get there. So your sexual energy, your semen, is the same thing. That is like the fuel to your vessel. So if you always draining yourself, you're not gonna make it to the higher dimensions. You're not going to make it to the fourth dimension. That's why it tells you when you go to Book of Revelations, chapter 21, verse 1, new heaven and new earth. Everybody's not going to be able to reap the benefits of going to the higher dimensions. Because when you talking about the chosen ones, the 144,000, you have 144,000 chosen people, because that energetic morphic field has a green aura around you. That's because you're in a state of balancement.
Wow. That is powerful, man. Yeah, semen retention is going to get you a lot of envy sometimes, because you're going to be on your purpose. You're going to be on your, what they call, be on your shit. You're going to be on your shit, and people going to see that.
Because you're going to have that light on you. You're going to have that clear frequency, because when you look at the color spectrum of the heart chakra is the foundation of the spirit of Melchizedek. You are operating at 0 point energy. So when you balance and you see, you know what I'm saying, you're going to have people hating on you. You know what I'm saying? They're going to be like, damn, that nigga shining. And then he doing his thing, whatever. You know what I'm saying? He don't hang out with nobody or whatever. He's maintaining his peace. He's not in no chaos and confusion. when you start, once that starts happening, people are able to see that light. It's kind of like a moth being attracted to a light. You know what I'm saying? They want some of that energy. They want to pull on that energy. They want to pull on your frequency because they see you shining. But everybody's not meant to reap the benefits of that light code transmission. So, but in order to tap into that, semen retention.
Powerful. All right, so we got this question. She said, her name is Shashana Smith. I used to sleepwalk quite often. Can you explain the purpose of sleepwalking and why people do it?
I'm not sure. I've never really like got into, that part of the paranormal activity, but I'm not sure about that.
Okay, this is a good question. How do you know when you came here on Earth for? Could you be intertwined with someone else's trauma and that not be what was purposed for?
This is how I know. Look, some people really think they came to this planet to be a basketball player. Some people really think they came to this planet to be a doctor. They think they came on this planet to be a rapper. They think they came on this planet to be, a celebrity. You know what I'm saying? They came on this planet to be a pastor, a priest, a politician. These are false constructs of a purpose. Your purpose has a lot more sustainability. Anything that's connected to the material world is not really a purpose. So with me and him giving this edification and the truth, if everything on this planet shut down, we would still be able to give the edification out. You know what I'm saying? Because it's sustainable. A lot of people, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's what I'm basically saying is like your purpose, what you came on this planet to do, is always going to work for you. So if you the best way to know that if you tapped into your purpose is like if it's actually working for you on a high level. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like what you do with your platforms. Like I said, you was probably good at basketball or something or football, but it didn't really work out. But when you started, putting out the edification of the truth or whatever on your platform, what happened? It started to take off. That's because that's connected to a divine purpose. It's based on divine intervention. Like I said, some people who are 7 feet tall, they think their purpose is to be NBA players. Those are supposed to be the warriors of the planet Earth. You know what I'm saying? They're supposed to be the protectors of Earth. You know what I'm saying? Some people really think because like I said, once the grid shuts down, you're going to be able to decipher who's who and what's what. Because ain't no more basketball. Ain't no more rapping. Ain't no more, you know what I'm saying? Ain't no more going to the club. Ain't none of that shit. So that's how you're going to see the delineation between who's who and what's what and who came here to do what.
Yeah. Dang, you made a good point. The people who are 7 feet are here to protect the world. Okay, I like that. We got so this woman asked about celibacy. So I was actually thinking about this. Is that the same for women who are celibate? Basically, you know how a man holds his energy, like is it the same for a woman?
Yeah, most definitely. We all have that Kundalini energy at the base of the spine. You ever heard of the process called Jacob's Ladder? It's acclimated to the esoteric principles of Freemasonry. Jacob's Ladder is an emulation of the 33rd vertebrae, which is synonymous to the throat chakra. So when you, what happens is you need to cultivate that energy to where you can ascend with the planet in degrees. But you cannot ascend with the planet if you always releasing yourself. Because when you look up Jacob's Ladder, when you look at the emulation of it, the picture or whatever, it shows you a staircase going into the higher dimensions. They know that your sexual energy sits at the base of the spine. Once it travels up the 33rd vertebrae and goes into the 31st ventricle of the brain, that's how you're able to have access to higher dimensional realms.
And that's how you get a Kundalini awakening.
Yep. That's why, because if you understand what Jacob or Yakub, Jacob means subplanter. He is the person who grafted a certain demographic. Because a lot of people They don't have that Kundalini energy because that Kundalini energy is connected to the frequency of the soul. Everybody don't have a soul. Everybody doesn't have access to higher dimensional travel. That's the dichotomy between 6 ether and 9 ether. Everybody don't have a soul. Everybody got a spirit. Everything on this planet has a spirit.
Right, spirit. Right. Right. Okay. So we got this question. Let me see.
They really into that semen retention, huh?
Yeah, because it's powerful. This has a lot to do with this war, this gender war going on. Because when you go on semen retention, you're gonna realize it's just another distraction anyway. You know what I'm saying? It's just another distraction. Semen retention, no fat.
That's true because once the planet, as the planet speeds up in vibration and is going through an ascension process, that is the foundation of evolution. And you cannot evolve with the planet if your sexual energy is being depleted. So the more the planet speeds up in vibration, your sexual energy is going to increase. But you got to protect it. Most women, they got to protect that sexual energy because your sexual energy has an orgone energy. If a woman has her sexual energy intact and she's using it correctly, she can manipulate the weather. And she can manipulate the weather so much to the point she can dematerialize the grid system.
Yo, that's crazy, man. Yo, wait.
Look, watch the movie. What was Storm? She was able to control the weather. You see what I'm saying? They give you the edification when you look at these cartoons or whatever. It shows you right in that.
No, that's some. See what you just said. That I can see that because women are they're very powerful creatures. So if a woman is able to have a baby, create a human, what else can she create? You know what I'm saying? Like there's something else she can create too. Like it just can't be a baby.
Once you have a larynx, your larynx is connected to your vocal cords. When you look at the vocal box, it looks like a vagina when you look inside of it, right? So meaning that it is an energy portal. It's an energy portal that has a tachyon frequency to it. So meaning that you're able to manifest your own reality just based upon the frequency of your voice. Just like the woman's able to manifest her own reality and bring a child into this world. So that's why it tells you in Psalms 82 verse 6 that you are gods. You are God because you're able to create with the octave frequency of your voice, or you're able to create through procreation by bringing somebody to this planet through your yoni portal. So like I said, it's as above, so below when it comes to the body. You can create here and you can create down here.
Yeah. Okay. That was some facts right there, what you said. Okay. Does semen retention work in similar timing to the menstrual cycle for women? What's your take on this?
I'm not understanding that. Does semen retention work in similar?
I think what he's trying to say, because someone had asked me this as well in person, they was trying to say some people believe that men have cycles. Because like you know how when a man's testosterone levels are lower and then we get like our estrogen, like we might get like pop off. Like that's like a cycle that some people believe men got cycles. That's like
we do. We have a circadian rhythm that's acclimated to the biorhythm of the planet. It's certain times where you're not supposed to be releasing yourself. At certain times you're not even supposed to be having sex. And certain times that you're supposed to be having sex because at certain points on the planet where there's portals opened up. You see what I'm saying? But we not tapped into that. You know, we not tapped into that esoteric information because we don't know certain geographical coordinates. If you have sex on certain geographical locations and you and that woman are trying to manifest something, y'all can bring something powerful to this planet. You know what I'm saying? You got gateways that's open because there's a lot of the parts of the grid that's basically starting to be depleted. This just hypothetically speaking, let's just say a man and a woman who has a sexual energy intact and they go to the Grand Canyon and they have sex or whatever, and they trying to manifest something, like really manifest something, they could bring something powerful to this planet.
Y'all hearing this? Y'all hearing this? Y'all hearing this? Y'all hearing this? All right. That is I'm glad that they asked that question because you know so you're saying like by the state where you do your good at, that can matter as well. The geographic location, the time, like the full moon, the new moon, like these are things to pay attention to when it comes to that. Okay, yeah, we're gonna do another video on that in the future. Like that sounds like a plan. All right.
Because I told you the quadrants of the moon is tethered to the electrical grid system. It's connected to the ley lines of the planet. So that's why the moon is actually a false emulation and a projection of planet Earth. That's why when you look at certain crest symbols on the moon, when you look at it, it's always the same. It never changes up.
Wow. Okay, that was some powerful stuff. So, do people with inner monologues, voices, have souls?
Nope. I'm gonna tell you something. There's a thing called internal monologue. Some people, there's a certain demographic of people on the planet, they cannot say "I love you" in their head. They got to actually say it. And your internal monologue is connected to the etheric frequency of your soul. So that's the delineation of a 6 ether being and a non-ether being, right? So everybody doesn't have access to, that little voice inside their mind. Everybody doesn't have that capability. So internal monologue is only acclimated to those who have, I don't want to say the word, but who have the activation of the sun heat genes. There's a certain word that it'll make sense if I say it, but I don't want to get your page flagged.
Yeah. They definitely get what you're saying. Yeah, they definitely get it. That's some powerful stuff. What's a great book on the gender war?
Read the it's not the foundation of the book is not just based on that, but if you read Isis Papers by Frances Cress Wilson, she dives deep into, when it comes to like relationships and symbolism, the symbology of relationships, and how it derived from like some of the stuff from ancient Kemet and stuff. So that's, it tells you about like how eugenics is connected to the gender war. So that'd be a good book to read. Isis Papers by Frances Cress Wilson.
Okay. All right. What's the difference between a spirit and a soul?
Well, from a level to where people can understand, your spirit is galvanized by your personality. You develop a personality when you in a three-dimensional state. Your individuality is connected to the energy of your soul. So your individuality is who you are based upon outside the construct of this three-dimensional reality before you even came to this planet. So now when you get into the scientific side of it, a spirit is galvanized by 6 ether genetical properties. That's why when you go to the book of Leviticus, when you break down the esoteric teachings of the Bible, it tells you that there's a bloodline called the Canaanite. You have the Canaanite. They amalgamated with K9s, right? So that's why it's not a coincidence that the K9 has the same hair follicle as a 6 ether being. That's why you got to read this book by Dr. York talking about dogs or whatever. Dogs don't have souls, they have spirits because they're a genetic mutation of that bloodline.
Yeah, it's a fact.
So it tells you through Levitical law, and when they was cursed with leprosy, that means they were stripped of the carbon. In order to have a soul, you got to have the carbonated energy, which meaning that you have this vessel in order for you to infiltrate this paradigm. So if you don't have the vessel, the sun heat genes, the activation of it that's acclimated to the soul, you cannot leave this planet. So this is why you have the perpetuation of the European infrastructure. They create, many different psychological operations to where they feed off our divinity because we have a soul. They don't have a soul. So they need our genetics in order to ascend with the planet. So this is where artificial intelligence comes into play. So they use black synthetic matter and they use that as a form of horizontal gene transfer, where they transmute the consciousness of the people who have the non-ether genetical properties, and they put it inside these artificial intelligence. So that's why they merge humans with cybernetics. They merge humans with cybernetics because they know that transhumanism is will only have temporary sustainability as the planet is going through an ascension process. You got to have this vessel. You got to be a carbon body. You got to be a non-ether being in order to ascend with the sun cycle. So when the planet is going through a perpetual state of judgment, when you have the April 8th, 2024, there's a solar eclipse that's going to take place, which is the foundation of judgment. And when that judgment takes place, it goes through 7 cities called Salem. And Salem is acclimated to the suffix of the word Jerusalem, because they know that the 7 cities of Salem is here on this geographical landmass of America. So when that judgment that acts over the planet, when you don't have the neurological faculties and the genetical makeup to ascend with the planet, you're basically going to go through a process of chemical combustion through the red star Kachina.
Wow. You said April 24th, next year, 2024.
April 8th, 2024 is that is going to be the last solar eclipse for I think it's for about 90 years.
And
that's
when you feel, hey, Bdell, let's get your predictions when you feel like this solar, when you feel like the grids are going to go off. A lot of people are starting to talk about NASA. So what's your prediction to when this solar flare is going to go? Not the solar flare, the grid. The grid is going to drop.
The grid is going to be depleted. I say anytime between now and 2025.
Okay, so we got about a year and about 4 months.
Yeah, but you also have an open vortex that's going to be taking place in August. That's a big rip in the universe. You're going to have these new energies coming in, and that's going to basically spike the Schumann resonance. So this is where a lot of people's epigenetics is going to come online. The DNA is going to go back into a revitalization. So the body is going to go through a reformulation process.
Wow, that is crazy what you just said, man. Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. Why is the moon and sun appearing at the same time in the skies? Because that's something I've been noticing as well.
That's because the planet is speeding up in vibration. So that means that the time analysis mechanism of the matrix system is starting to be depleted. So the sleep spell and the time analysis mechanism works on the cycles of the moon. So the moon is being depleted. So that means that time is being depleted. Because when you look at the suffix of the word chronos or chronology, kratos, that is the god of Saturn, which is propagated by the archons of the Saturn moon matrix system. So the Saturn moon matrix system, it is being governed by the artificial time analysis mechanism of time that keeps you tracked. This is why, like, all that stuff is being connected to how they control the matrix. Like, you got to go to work and you got to clock in at certain times or whatever. If you pay attention, everything's out in front of you. You got some time. When you clock in to work, your time card or just the machine you clock in at, it has Chronos on it. If you pay attention, and Chronos is the god of Saturn.
He is the ruler of all planets. He's like the father time.
Yep, father time. Serapis, or forgot the other name, but yeah.
Okay, this person asked a question for you, Bdell. We're gonna go and show it. So, if you know of the 178 outer lands, then are you sure it's 144,000 people sold or 144,000 groups, not just single people? I'm not sure. You understand that question?
I understand what she's saying, but a lot of people have a misconception about the 144,000. 144,000 is based on biological upgrades and neurological upgrades. You have the neuroendocrine transducer. That is basically the God frequency that is connected to the gamma radiation. So when you have the 144,000 crystals in the brain, which is the magnetites and the dendrites, when the mind is activated, the body got to go through a transmutation process because the carbon body is an electromagnetic generator and a light code transducer to where it transmutes the carbon through pressure. Pressure makes diamonds into a crystalline state. So in order to reap the benefits of crystallization through the mind and the body, you have to harmonize with the planet as the planet is going through a Schumann resonance spike. So that's connected to being a supreme being or a superhero. So everybody is not going to be able to reap the benefits of that. So 144,000 is really just based on activation of DNA. It's not it's a certain demographic of people who is getting the activation of the DNA. It's not groups of people or tribes or whatever. That's the esoteric side of it.
Okay. Yeah, we already went on the gender war, y'all. So now we're answering questions. So if y'all wanna, we're at the end of the live, but we're just asking questions. So we're answering questions. So y'all feel free to answer questions, and we're gonna answer your question. All right. So we got a question from, what happens when I look up and items turn into a different item?
You had a dimensional split.
Dimensional split.
You have timelines merging in. That's why, like I said, when the grid system is depleted, like you got certain energy points on the planet. When you're reading something, and you might go to another part of the room, and the words might change up. That's connected to the Mandela.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, you got energy centers on this planet. You know what I'm saying? To where certain things where different realities start to merge in with each other.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good explanation. A good of that. All right. What it means when you Now this person says, what does it mean when you look at something and it moves?
You said what it means? Same process. You said when you it means when you look at something and move. What do you mean? Like it moves by itself, or?
Yeah, I think he's talking about like you're in the house and then like it just moves like a tap. I think that's definitely sounds like a spirit. The spirit is
probably a spirit. You know what I'm saying? It could be a negative entity. You just in case, like I said, you want to protect yourself with some crystals. You want to sage up the crib. You know what I'm saying? Like make sure you keep your energetic space clean.
Yeah. This person asked about NPCs. Do NPCs walking around really exist?
Yeah, there's a study that came out not too long ago. They said that it's only 60% of people on the planet walking around with no consciousness. Literally. There's a study that came out not too long ago. There's 60% of people on the planet are walking around with no consciousness. And your consciousness is connected to the soul. So that's telling you that there's people on this planet who don't have a soul. They're just walking around like an empty seater. So that's why when you have the Hadron Collider, the CERN machine, they look for empty seaters. When they open up these portals and they bring in these jinns and these archonic demons and they come into this planet, they start to take upon the vessel to propagate a certain agenda that's acclimated to the black nobility. And the reason I say black nobility is because the headquarters is in Switzerland. Switzerland is where the CERN machine is at. That's why Switzerland, they never had any wars. They never had no war in history, because that's where the real plutocracy and the oligarchs, that's where they live at. And they're not from this planet. Those are your people you call your 200 fallen angels that went against the order of Anu, which is the 1/3 of the galaxy. And those are the ones that came down when you go in the book of Genesis or in the book of Enoch. They tell you that the archons or the fallen angels, they came down and made it with the daughters of men. And they made it with the daughters of men, which is the Canaanite. And that Canaanite is the inception of your governmental system, because it's controlled by the 13 bloodlines. And those 13 bloodlines is your Canaanite bloodline, which is the cursed seed.
Isn't it true that you don't have to be 100% carbonated to be considered a carbonated being?
Yeah, that's a fact. Yeah.
Your divine insight went on that as well. Yeah, basically, yeah. As long as you have like one black parent, one melanated parent, you have that special genetics inside of you. You have that. You're able to take the sun and sun gaze.
There's a big misconception. a lot of people don't have, how can I say it? Just because you melanated or carbonated, just because you a nigga, whatever you want to call yourself, just because you so-called black, African American, whatever you want to label yourself, you don't have access to higher dimensional travel. You're not gonna survive the ship just because you black. A lot of, you know what I'm saying, just as much as the people who propagated the enslavement on the chosen people, some of y'all are gonna go through that process as well because y'all don't have the neurological functions to tap into the energy to ascend with the planet. Some people think they chosen just because they black. That's not true. Just like you have some people on this planet, like when a lot of people always, have a misconception about Europeans. A lot of them don't come from the same bloodline. You got different types of Europeans. You got the Canaanite, which is the people who run your government, right? Or that's being controlled by black nobility, draconian reptilian. You got Pleiadians, right? Then you got Ashtar Command. Then you got the Canaanite. You got the Edomite. Then you got the Flugarides. Then you got some Dayros and you got Tayros. All of them don't come from the same bloodline. But that's the thing, though. The people who run the government, the Canaanite bloodline, they trick Europeans into thinking that they are basically the same species as them so they can carry out a certain agenda against us. So that's what I'm saying. White people are genetic anomalies. Now, when it comes to black people, you have different types of species as well. You know what I'm saying? You got some of us come from the seeds of Enki, some of us come from the seeds of Enlil. You know what I'm saying? Some of us are Proconians. You know what I'm saying? Everybody is not an Anunnaki.
Yeah, I also heard, for me to tap into that, I heard that even back then, even though we was all like, our skin color, we were still worn like with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like back then people think, oh, yeah, that was my brother, we never wore. Nah, there was different tribes, different groups. So, we was warring with each other, our own people. That's why you see today, you see your own people hating on you. You see your own, you look at someone hating on you, and they your same skin color. I'm like, damn, right. I thought we were the same team. Like,
that's that Enlil energy. That's
that
Enlil energy. You know what I'm saying? Some people, you know what I'm saying, they dealing with a lot of internal afflictions, and they start hating on, try to pull your energy down.
Yeah. Okay, so we got one from when you don't do sexual activity strictly for a year in all ways, what strengths or abilities do you gain? So it's basically saying when you hold your energy for a year.
You tap into your psychometry, clairvoyance, intuition. You tap into those higher senses. Because like I told you, your semen is connected to your neurological faculties, and your neurological faculties is connected to your neural synapses, which activates the neurotransmitters. So this is how you tap into the God mind, right? So you got to cultivate the mind in order to become a supreme being with a God body. You know what I'm saying? It's like, like you're not going to be able to ascend if you ain't got this right. Because if you ain't got your mind right, you ain't got your vessel right. So you got to maintain that balance.
Is it true that when I'm gonna ask this to just pertaining to this whole topic of this video, is it true that when you go on semen retention, you're gonna attract a woman who's like similar, who's on that same type of time, who's celibate as well?
Yeah, sometimes, but you also gonna have a demons attracted because they can feel that energy. You got lust demons in a cataract dimension, in between dimensions, the third and the fourth dimension. You can't see them. They like spirits, and they attach on to people. And when they see somebody who has an energetic frequency that has a supreme discipline about their sexual energy, they try to pull on it. That's why some women, like you, what demons do, you have a pheromone. They can sense it. You know what I'm saying? So they can sense that energy. So if you walk in Walmart, you just going to get some toilet paper, you know what I'm saying, to stock up. You know what I'm saying? You've been practicing semen retention, and the next thing you know, you walk by like 3 women. Next thing you know, they following you around trying to get your number because they can feel that energy. They can sense it. They can smell it. That's because some of them, like I said, some of them might be vibrating on the same frequency as you, but some of them might be dealing with a demon that's trying to reap the benefits of the experience of sex through another vessel.
Very well broken down, brother. How do you, so if one man is on semen retention, how does he like protect himself from these sex demons and these type of people?
You ever seen the movie? The best way I can explain it from an imagery standpoint, the movie you see the movie Malcolm X?
Yeah.
With Denzel Washington, remember the part when he was walking on the strip and he had all those hookers was like trying to holler at him and stuff. That's how focused you got to be. That's how you just gotta laser focus.
Right, you gotta.
You gotta be focused. You just like you walking through a hall of hoes. You walking through a room full of hoes. You gotta be able to maintain that energy. You gotta be mentally balanced and emotionally balanced. Because a lot of men, they don't have a lot of sexual discipline because they emotional. See what I'm saying? When you're very emotional, now you're trying to compensate for the lack thereof. Like, I had a bad day. I need to get some sex. I need to hit something new.
And I noticed that too.
Yeah.
I noticed a lot of men are emotional nowadays. Like back then, I noticed people made a lot of decisions based off logic. Nowadays, men make decisions based off emotion. They be like, I'm gonna get back on my ex because it feels good. I missed the comfort. It was so comfortable, and and a lot of things what you just said. I just now starting to realize that. And then it also has to do with the food. You're putting the food is affecting the testosterone. What's going on?
Yeah, especially it's when you got a lot of these dudes out here. Anything you're supposed to do in increments. I don't care if you're smoking weed or drinking liquor. Do that shit in increments. Too much of anything is bad for you. So you have aromatase levels in the liquor, and then you have it inside the government weed and stuff that people be smoking. See, the aromatase levels, they transmute the testosterone into estrogen. So that's why when you see a lot of people who drink a lot of alcohol, like chronic alcoholic drinkers, they have man boobs. You see what I'm saying? That's because it's a form of biochemical warfare.
Right. And I also heard by the voice too. Like there's been some times where I talk to I'll just be walking to get some food, and then a man will talk to me, and then his voice is so like he has a low pitch. What's it called? High pitched voice. I guess this is a high pitched voice. Yeah. But that is what I'm talking about. Like that is it's like, what are you doing? Like, where's your energy at? Like, I'll be wondering what's going on with the energy? Like, what's taking place? Is he holding his energy? Because they say by a man, just because a man is in a body doesn't mean he's in his masculine energy. And your voice can tell you a lot about a person. When someone has a stronger voice, or when someone has a high pitched voice, that can kind of tell you what's going on. Yeah.
They lacking some testosterone. They lacking some high levels of it. Yep. But that's like I said, you live in a Luciferian system, so everything is being inverted. They want the masculine to be emasculated, and they want the feminine to be masculine. So this is why you got niggas acting like bitches and women acting like men.
Yeah.
So that's based on asymmetrical biochemical warfare. So they know that the chemicalization is conducive to their agenda. So because if you emasculate me and you propagate masculinity on the woman, there's no unification.
Yeah.
Because that creates the gender war. Because the woman's too busy trying to be masculine because I'm not in my masculine energy, because I've been compromised at a genetical level when it comes to genetically modified foods. So you see what I'm saying? So that's why, everything is inverted. That's why when you look at the color spectrum of the chakra system, when you look at the LGBT flag or whatever, it's a reverse of frequency.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, it's reverse of frequency. It's an inverted lifestyle. They want everything to be upside down. They want everything to be based on chaos and order.
So LGBTQ community, that's literally upside down. Like it's going backwards, is what you're saying.
Yeah, because that's why they put the root chakra at the top. That shall set your energy. When really, you know what I'm saying, you're supposed to, the crown chakra is supposed to be at the top when you're looking at the rainbow.
That is messed up. When I heard people talk about that, but now I'm thinking about it. That's deep.
Yeah, everything's inverted here. There's no such thing as justice. Everything's inverted. Everything. That's why when you go in the courtroom, the scales of justice is off balance. There is no type of equality, real equality. There's no such thing. You can never get equality on the third dimensional planet.
Okay. A question that I need to ask though, men who are emotional, how do they deal with being more logical? Because like you just said, like a man could be on his journey, he could be on his shit, and then he goes to the store, a woman look good, she got bad energy, but he's in his emotions. He's like, damn, I've been, I haven't really been like having a good day, a good month. I'm just gonna go with it. She come up to me, I'm taking her. Like even though he knows that's a bad decision. That's a decision based off emotion, and now his life is gonna go down a little bit. So how does a man stay logical? How does he stay in his the left side? How does he stay in his left side?
Well, a man. Well, I would say a male, not a man. A male is a person who hasn't mentally fortified himself enough to be a man. So, in order to reap the benefits of having that cultivated energy of becoming a man, you know what I'm saying, to have that masculine energy, you have to be balanced. You know what I'm saying? Most dudes now, you know what I'm saying, like they deal with a lot of emotions because they're embarking the same frequency as their mother. Some dudes grew up without a father. So now they got the energy of their mother and they use that energy and they embark it on how they deal with friends, family members, and relationships. So in order to reap the benefits of masculinity, you got to become a lot more logical than you are emotional to balance it out, to zero everything out.
Right.
That's why, like, for instance, when everything's right in front of you, people just got to be a lot more analytical and pay attention. When you see street dudes, you ever seen a street dude? The most street dudes grew up without a father, right? You know what I'm saying? Because if they have a father, they'd be in the streets.
The father time they're going to teach him not to be in the streets, right?
But listen, when you looking at it, when you staring at a street dude, what did he do? You looking at? What you looking at, nigga? That's the same thing that women do. When you staring at a woman, it's like, boy, what you looking at? They got the same energy as a woman. It just has a different frequency to it. You got the same energy. A street dude ain't no different than a female. They got the same energy. Because, like I said, when you're over emotional, that creates toxicity. Because your emotions is not in balance with logic.
Right, and it doesn't make. That's why a lot of some people don't understand the emotional people because they're like, that was irrational. Why did you make that decision? Like some women, not all women, but some women make decisions off their emotions. So it's like a man be like, why did she do that? Like, why did she do that? And same with men too. Some men make decisions off their emotions.
Most street dudes, man, like I said, when you get to the inception of it, a lot of them, they was raped when they was kids. A lot of them, you know what I'm saying, like they dealing with a lot of internal problems. So that's why, they propagate gangsterism and women think that's masculinity. Like I said, that's a call for help. You know what I'm saying? Smoking all day, popping pills, you know what I'm saying, flashing the money. They trying to compensate for the lack thereof. Something happened to that man when he was a little boy. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I definitely see what you're saying. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's like backwards. It's like going backwards, like you said, with the LGBTQ, QT. The flag is the root chakras at the top, the red's at the top, and the purple's at the bottom.
Like I said,
what in the world? Like
you gotta first of all, it's one of those things where, man, you just gotta a lot of them deal with a lot of mental issues. You know what I'm saying? And that's the reason why, they have that toxic energy on them. So that's why a lot of them are really like low key, homosexuals too. A lot of
I heard about that. I did hear about that.
A lot of street dudes are really that, you know what I'm saying? But like when I see dudes acting like that, but a lot of women, today, they really think that like, oh, he a street dude. You know what I'm saying? He is listening to NBA YoungBoy. That's Bay right there. That's Bay. You got, they think that's like masculine energy. A masculine man is always a very logical man, not an emotional man. Emotional people act on impulse. You know what I'm saying? They just react with no foundation of being pragmatic.
Yeah, you schooling us right now. Like, you really schooling us, man. You really schooling us. I'm really thinking about that. Like, that's some deep stuff. Let me see some of the other questions we got going on right here, y'all. Let's see what we got. Okay. Let's see what questions. What is it? What's your take on the mark? You know what that is?
When you talking about Mark of the Beast, that's what I'm.
Yeah, we can't touch too much on that, because YouTube hella sensitive.
But I can touch on it a little bit. Well, the mark is actually one of those things where you are the beast. A lot of people became the beast. They have the mark of the beast because they following Western culture. When you see a so-called black woman wearing a blonde wig, mark of the beast. When you propagating certain things that's connected to Westernized culture, that's the mark of the beast. You like because you following the image that's outside of your original connection to the planet. That's the mark.
Okay. Let's see, we got this question here. All right, yeah, this is a good question. All right, so how do I get laser focused on my mission and be consistent with it? Like, basically, like, to what you was kind of going on, like, you see all those women, you want semen retention. How do you just go straight and not fold? How do you have victory?
Discipline, man. You got to have discipline. Discipline is, I mean, that sounds like very cliche, but that's what it is. It's really, that's the foundation. Yeah. If you don't have no discipline, you don't have nothing.
Yeah, sometimes that's what it is. Sometimes we ask questions and the answer is like something we already know, and I had to learn that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna answer about 5 more questions, y'all, and then we're gonna get going. How long we been on here? Almost 2 hours. Yeah, we got food to eat. We got things to do. We love y'all though. So much love for this community. All right. So, what entities vessels how do they see your view in first persons?
You said when entities.
When entities hop. Mm-hmm. When entities vessels hop, do they see your view in first person? It's screen kind of far from me. Yeah.
Pretty much. Yep. That they trying to embark a certain experience. Because some of them, like I said, you got some spirits that can't take corporeal form. You got some of them that only work through nanotechnology. That's why they use it all in the food. But the spirits can also infiltrate nanotechnology as well and take over your vessel.
Yeah. What about women? So women, like, since they're ruled by the move by more emotions, and sometimes more of the times they make decisions off their emotions, shall they be more logical to help themselves, or is it just normal for them to be like that?
No, it's not normal. You're not supposed to be emotional. When the reason I say that is because your emotions is acclimated to the energy of the moon. If the moon is an artificial celestial megastructure, that means that your energy emotions is not real because the moon is acclimated to the material world. So the only reason you have emotions is because you're connected to material. That's the illusion. So your emotions is actually the illusion under the sleep spell, because the sleep spell of King Gu is the moon. The moon was brought into our solar system, once the moon broke off from planet Earth. We had original moon that was in our solar system. It worked in symbiotic connection. And then when it broke off, that created the Milky Way galaxy, which is also in alignment to the Grand Canyon. So the Draconian reptilians, they brought this moon over into our solar system from planet Jupiter, and they use it as a direct energy weapon that controls humans through nanotechnology, which is connected to the genetically modified foods that we eat, and through the propagation of inoculations and things of that nature. So the moon is basically one of those things that it basically controls humanity from an energy and a frequency standpoint. It's a satellite.
So I know some people are going to have a hard time swallowing that, what you just said. You said emotions is so basically emotions. You have the perspective that emotions are fake.
Yeah, because like I said, that's what they do in this world. They supplicate your emotions and they transmute it into a weakness. Because now you have when you have a weakness, you know what I'm saying, you start to seek outside stimulation. You don't go internal no more. Because the material world is the illusion. And the illusion is galvanized by the moon. The moon is galvanized by the matrix. That's why they call it the Saturn moon matrix, where you're trapped in material. So the moon is not real and the material is not real. And if your emotions is connected to material, your emotions is not real.
That is some deep stuff, man. Okay, let's see what questions we got. Appreciate y'all for tapping into this episode. You know, Bdell1014 special guest, intellect. You know, you definitely remind me, Bdell, about the man that fell down from Earth, man. Definitely remind me of that person.
The guy on The Man Who Fell to Earth.
Yeah, like you came down here just to like watch humanity, like, and just to really like shine water and light and yeah, yeah. Because your perspective, I think that's why your platform does so well too. Because your perspective on things is very, it's very esoterical. You deliver things very good. You know,
I appreciate that.
Even as you're saying a lot of these things, it's like to put it together. It's powerful to put it together for people watching to process that. Some people are probably still processing what you're saying. So
you know what's crazy though? I've already told somebody this before, but I said something about it on Black Magic's channel. It was a point of time where I was really indulged into the information at a high level. Like I used to I've been studying this stuff for a long time. You know what I'm saying? But it was one point of time where I had information, but I wasn't able to piece everything up. So probably about like 6 years ago, it was I told myself, I said, if it's meant for me to understand certain things intuitively, then give me the information and not give it back to the people with no strings attached. And I kid you not, you know, this is a true story. I had 3 beings in my room. I was like half asleep. It was like shadowy. But ever since then, you know, I had that visitation. And then ever since then, from that day, everything's been coming to me. Like all the information and certain downloads, where certain books to read, all that stuff, you know, started to make a lot more sense. So all people would be asking me all the time, like, why you know, how you be knowing all this stuff or whatever? I asked for the information, and since I asked for it, I look for it.
As you shall receive.
Yep. And I was very sincere about it, because what you do, you know what I'm saying, when you giving the truth to people, this is, you know, charity. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not one of those people to where, you know, I don't use the edification in the form of capitalism. So what I do is, you know what I'm saying, people try to ask me for my Cash App and all that stuff. I don't do that. You know what I'm saying? I'm here to give the edification. It's supposed to be free. We went to motherfucking college and all this shit. You know, we paid thousands of dollars, you know what I'm saying, to be indoctrinated by, you know, misinformation. So it's only right to give people, you know what I'm saying, the real information on a free platform.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, everyone everyone watching, if you guys can give us do us a favor and like this video, you know, because this is free knowledge. You know, we ain't charging nothing. YouTube doesn't even pay me on this platform. So, you know, this is free knowledge right here. And the most y'all can do is just like the video, share the 3 people watching. It will help more than you think. YouTube doesn't send on my videos. That's why my channel looks like the way it does. But hey, I'm just doing what I could do. You know, I'm just doing what I could do.
But the 3 beings I was talking about is somebody I told an elder about my experience. He was saying that they were the 3 magi, and Dr. York in his publications, that's who I get a lot of my esoteric teachings from. I study. I'm also an indigenous Moor. I study the
Respect, my boy.
Circle 7. You know what I'm saying? I studied the Circle 7, and I study under the teachings of Noble Drew Ali. You know what I'm saying? I got people in my family that was 5%ers. You know what I'm saying? I study under the Nuwapic teachings. You know what I'm saying? My mom, she was a part of that community. You know what I'm saying? When I was a little kid or whatever. So that's one of those things, man. That's how, you know, I tapped into the information. But the 3 beings is you go to the Holy Tablets, he talks about the 3 magi. And I think it's inside the Holy Tablets.
Okay, so we got a question. Let me see. Okay, so when you're on semen retention, the succubus energy, when you go into dreams, how do you fight those succubus? How do you get those succubus out of here? How do you shut down those succubus?
You got those I forgot what the crystal was called, but you always want to have some type of like spiritual crystals, you know what I'm saying, around the bed or whatever. Just to, you know, and to keep, it's like an energetic morphic field. You trying to build that autonomous shield to block you of anything that's trying to infiltrate your frequency.
Right. Because
crystals will help with that.
Oh yeah. Damiana is not Damiana. Mugwort is good for those type of, if you have nightmares. But for succubus, I know a good crystal for that is what crystal's good for night? Oh, amethyst. Get you some amethyst.
Rose quartz crystal.
Yes.
Rose quartz is good.
Yes. Also, tiger's eye. Tiger's eye is a crystal that holds the energy of the sun. So when you have that energy, when you have that crystal on you, you're holding. You gotta understand, we're talking about the sun. The sun is like what gives life to food, people, makes us happy. So when you have that, that's why they say people who walk around with a citrine crystal are very happy and they're very powerful, because you're walking around with a very powerful crystal. Like crystals that have the sun is your citrines, your pyrites, your tiger's eyes, your ambers, your sunstones, your carnelians. Like those crystals will really help you to be more, you know, to carry more life into you and protect you as well. So,
you know, another thing that's pretty good is actually I forgot what they call Moldavite. That's a really good Yep.
Yeah. I used to wear that. A lot.
Yeah, it enhances the carbon. You ever seen a movie? Meteor Man? It's an old movie. You need to watch it. There's a meteorite that came down to the planet and had the green emerald frequency. It was basically a Moldavite. There was a Moldavite meteorite that came down to the planet, and every time he touched the meteorite, since he came in contact with the meteorite or whatever, that contained like a Moldavite energy, anything he touched, it became acclimated to who he was as a person or a being or whatever. He could touch a book or whatever, he know all the information in the book. So like I said, Moldavite kind of does the same thing. It enhances the melanin.
Woo. Yeah, I have myself some Moldavite. Moldavite is, for everyone watching this, you know, a lot of people do with crystals. Moldavite is the only crystal. It's the only crystal that's not from Earth. So when you wear Moldavite, you're gonna kind of like remember like your previous past lives and where you came from. Some of us were aliens in our past lives. Some of us were extraterrestrials. Some of us wasn't really from Earth. So Moldavite will kind of like the dreams I've had wearing Moldavite, like they were very powerful. So it is hard to get. Most of it is fake. Most Moldavite is fake. So be mindful about it. It is very pricey, around $300, $400. But when you wear that crystal, you're gonna tap into a lot of things, and it opens up it focuses primarily on your third eye chakra and your heart chakra. Very powerful for that.
I noticed that the guy at the bottom, he said something about the Golden Lords, and it's crazy that he said that because the Proconians, they are black people who have blonde hair. And then when you go to the movie Time Jumper, because the Proconians are the timekeepers of the universe, you go to the movie Time Jumper, you have Samuel Jackson. He had his hair was blonde, just like the Golden Lords on the Meteor Man movie. That was just a download that I just had, so I had to bring that up.
Okay, hey, I like that, man. Okay, so we got a question. Okay, for this person who wants to get crystals, go to gobeyond5d.com if you want those, because you say you want that. So go to gobeyond5d.com. All right. Link is on my Instagram. Link is in the description. When will this solar flash event occur?
I say probably the inception of it is going to take place, because one of the as I was talking about the judgment of the solar eclipses, the first solar eclipse that's going to be taking place on my birthday this year, on October 14th, that is basically going to be the Libra energy coming to the planet as a karmic frequency. So meaning that when they have that solar eclipse that's going to be coming around my birthday, that is going to be the foundation of justice. Then you're going to have another solar eclipse that's going to put an X over this geographical location of America, because America is going through a judgment process. So when they put that X over the planet, the other solar eclipse, that is basically going to create this dynamic of a great solar flash, because that is where you get your concept of Planet X or Mothership, Nibiru, or whatever. That is going to be the judgment, and the judgment is based on the cosmic waters being broken. So that's why when you look at the Aquarian age, it shows you the guy holding a pitcher of water. That's pure cosmic energy that's coming to the planet once the grid system is being depleted due to the judgment that's being propagated by this geographical location. Because this America was once part of Atlantis at one point in time. There's one guy, he had a question. He said, what is light language? Well, all ancient Proto-Semitic language is connected to the alphabetical symmetry of light, and meaning that it has a certain octave energy. And that octave energy, as I was talking earlier, has a energy that's connected to your larynx, and your larynx is your vocals, and your vocal cords looks just like a woman's yoni portal. So the octave frequency of the light language has the ability to open up portals based upon the vibration of your voice, depending on what language that you're speaking.
Okay, so we got this question right here, right? Okay.
I can go all day.
Yeah. This one needs to be answered. Bdell, give it to them, because you said, you know, people are curious about what you say. You know, they're gonna detest what you say sometimes. So they said, if you said emotions are fake, love is an emotion. So how do we, like, how does that, how does that go? How does that go together? If emotions are fake and love is an emotion, or am I wrong? Is love an emotion, or can you elaborate on that?
In order to love somebody has to be in connection with a little bit of logic, because, like I said, the foundation of love is being balanced. So, right. So if you're not mentally and spiritually and emotionally balanced, you know what I'm saying, that's going to create a dynamic of being illogical. Because I told you, love can be a demon. That is the foundation of a three-dimensional world. Everything is based on polarity. But that's what I'm saying. Polarity and duality is connected to the energy of the moon. That's what makes up the matrix system, right? So if your emotions is connected to the material and the material is connected to polarity, that means that your emotions is not real, because none of this stuff is real. You watch the movie The Man Who Fell to Earth. He came down. He didn't have no emotions. He was kind of like, he seen that emotions had a chaotic energy, and it put people in it put like an encryption on the mental and the physical capacity of human beings on the planet. That's what emotions do. So when he came down to the planet Earth, he didn't understand compassion, because it was kind of like a form of insanity, I should say. So he's not supposed to be, I mean, you see a little kid get hurt or something like that, yeah, you're supposed to be, show empathy and, but what I'm talking about is like I lost my job, or I lost my girl, and I'm not in a relationship no more. Those, you know what I'm saying, you got to get away from that. You got to be operating at 0 point energy. When you go through the Sufi order of the Sons of Green Light to maintain that green etheric frequency through the spirit of Melchizedek, that's how you tap into 0 point energy. And that 0 point energy is you being balanced under the Kemetic principles. And those Kemetic principles are under the laws of Mayat. So you got to be balanced. If you don't have no balance, you don't have nothing. And you can't be balanced when you're in a state of emotionalism, because when you're in a state of emotionalism, that is the precursor to toxicity. And when you're in a state of toxicity, this is where demons can take upon your energetic frequency and deviate you from your purpose.
So the more emotional you are, the more you're susceptible to demons. The more you're susceptible to the devil. It makes sense, because I know emotions come and go, but it's so powerful, and everyone watching this live, feels emotions. So sometimes you can get the wrong emotion and act off that emotion, and then a day later you're like, damn, I don't know why I did that. And you know what I'm saying? People always think about,
another thing, it's kind of like when people are on the emotional roller coaster, you always got to maintain balance, because if you're too happy, a demon can infiltrate you. If you're too sad, a demon can infiltrate you.
Yep.
You got to be balanced. That's what I'm saying. When he came to this planet, when the man who failed the earth, that prophet, when he came to the planet, he had no emotions. He had no emotions because he's seen it as a form of insanity.
Yeah, and he was the thing is, he was terrified of emotions. Like when someone would cry, you should have saw his face.
This is what emotions do.
Mm-hmm.
A motherfucker would tell you that the sky is green if the color blue hurts their feelings. It deviates you from logic.
Okay. That's some crazy stuff. Like you schooling, like people loving it. People saying this is a masterclass. People saying they love this series. They love this. I appreciate everyone watching this. For a few more questions we're going to answer.
Even though we had some problems because the power went out in my city.
Yeah. Power went out. What's your opinion on OCD? This person been asking that. OCD, because you know how earlier we was talking about cleaning up is important, because if you want to clean demons out, you got to clean your house out.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Some people, like when you talking about autism, OCD, and stuff like that, I feel like a lot of those people who get those labels or whatever, they have a high, they have a supreme spirituality to them, but it's been
like demonized.
It's been miscodified as something, as a mental illness or something.
Yeah.
So ain't nothing wrong with being OCD.
This is a woman asking this question. She asked this a few times. Just want to get this out the way for her. She's, I'm a woman, and I asked this question. So what about for the woman when it comes not to having sexual activities? What's some advice you can give us?
Protect your energy. You got, like I said, you got to discipline. Discipline is key. Discipline and balance. Discipline and balance. That's all you need. You know what I'm saying? But I know the inception of people's problems when it comes to being disciplined. That's because, like I said, we was talking about the detoxification of getting away from social media. A lot of people don't have the balance or the discipline, is because they're being controlled by social media and what they see. So if you see something enough, it's going to infiltrate your frequency, and you're gonna go against your own disciplinary practices.
Oh yeah, I didn't. Okay, someone else is saying what? Let me see. Someone else is saying what you said. He said Rashad talked about being emotion. Rashad talked about emotions being demons. Mm-hmm. I never knew that. So yeah. If you operate too much off your emotions, you're gonna look back and be like, damn. Well, what was the point of that? Because logic always is 1 + 1 is gonna make more sense. So every decision you make, does it make sense? That's the question that should be asked. Does it make sense? Every decision you do, does it make sense? Is it helping you? Is it helping your journey? Yeah. So we got a question about can we get info about twin flames? Yeah, I gotta hear your take on twin flames, Bdell.
I haven't really got into like the twin flame thing, but I mean, my take on twin flames is pretty much someone who embarks the same energy as you, and that, you know, your twin flame is also used to help you get to a certain level. You know what I'm saying? It's like using them as a form of a stepping stone. Like, you know, your twin flame, they might be really good at something, and y'all come together and y'all galvanize your resources, and you know, for manifestation purposes. So having a twin flame is, you know, they say a lot of that stuff is like temporary, but that's the delineation between the twin flame and having a soul connection. So a twin flame, like I said, is somebody, you know, that comes in your life, and y'all help each other get to the next level of where y'all trying to get. But it's not, you know, usually sustainable.
Okay, so wait, put on the light real quick. Okay. So this person said, back to what you were saying, love is a frequency. So what do you think, Bdell? You think love is a frequency or an emotion?
Love is a frequency, but like I said, it depends on what polarity you looking at. We live in a polarity type of realm. That's what the third dimension is. So like I said, it can be a frequency or it can be a demon, depending on what vibration you on. Because the heart chakra, I told you, that is the green etheric frequency that's connected to your individuality. So so most people who don't have any type of individuality, they have a personality, and that personality is being controlled by, you know, your so-called emotion. So that's the difference between loving things externally and loving yourself internally. Loving yourself internally, that is mastery. That is the spirit of Melchizedek. That is the order of the sons of green light. So, like I said, that contains a certain frequency. Now, if you love things on the external level, that's where the demons come. I told you, because external stimulation is connected to the material world. I love my car. I love her. You don't love yourself, bro? you don't love yourself? I love double cheeseburgers. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I'm saying. The people, that's what I said, love can be a demon. You ever seen a person love something so much that it destroys them? You got people on My 600-Pound Life. They love fast food. They love McDonald's. But like I said, they love has transmuted into being a demon. Now the demon took up on the vessel that made them 600 pounds. Because they need external validation. Everything's internal.
Right. So there really is there really is a dark side to love.
Depending on what frequency you're on, though.
Appreciate the 181 viewers. Appreciate you guys for tapping in. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. As we already went over the gender war, and now we're just answering questions for you guys tonight on a Sunday night. See what question? How do we clear karma? Because we were talking about karma earlier. Some people have karmic relationships, and they're in these karmic bonds and trauma bonds with people. So if someone's watching this and they got a lot of karma going on with their relationship, how do they clear that, or even their future relationships?
Come to terms with their own afflictions and their own shortcomings. Self-realization. That is the initiation on how you master yourself. So if you want to take back your power, try to balance out that karma. Well, whatever you did, you know what I'm saying? This is where you got to tap in when you get into meditation. Find out what you did in your past life. What type of fucked up things you did. Like, you know, whether if you had, you know, you did a lot of people dirty in your past life or whatever. Try to overcome that, you know, tap into meditation and find out the cosmic keys on how to cultivate your own reality to where you can balance out that karma. That's how you do that.
Okay, let's see what else we got. All right, y'all. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. Um, one more question. One more question. All right. How do you detox yourself? Yeah.
I got this duck flower. I heard this thing called duck
Woo.
flower. Uh,
Yes.
but I heard it give you a nice little ass whooping. So
Yeah.
duck flower, you really gotta make sure you when you tap into duck flower or whatever, make sure you off work for a week when you do that. I've done duck flower before. I was off work for like 4 days or whatever.
Did you if your mom and asking, did you throw up?
Yeah, I did all that, man. I threw up and my body was hot, and yeah,
Okay.
it's gonna
I
get
do
you
got some.
together.
Yeah, I got some duck flower in my drawer. I just been looking at it. Don't know if I should take it because it's just so. I just heard so many stories about you throw up and it does.
You gonna feel that burn in your face. It's gonna pull all the everything out of your face. You know what I'm saying? Like you're gonna feel it.
Oh man, yeah. I
That's
just heard
another
so many
thing.
stories about
Another thing that I do, I sit in the sauna a lot. I meditate in the sauna. I go in the sauna at least 3 4 days out the week. Get my mind right, speed up my vibration, and also trying to, get myself prepared because it's going to come a point in time on this planet where it's going to get so hot that you're not going to be able to take it. So right now, I'm just trying to, you know, uh, practice my vessel on, when the planet goes through that big ascension process or whatever. That's how I'm able to, what I'm saying, breathe when the atmosphere is really chaotic. So sitting in the sauna, sitting in a steam room, do stuff like that. That's good for the detoxification. Do that.
it. Yep, sitting in the sun. There's been times where if I'm speaking on this, there's been times where I've been literally sick. Like this is like 2 years ago. I would be literally sick. I would go out, meditate in the sun, take my shirt off. I would meditate, and that would literally like the sun gives off certain energies, and it also activates your solar plexus chakra. That's that yellow chakra. So when you're in your solar plexus chakra, that's why I'm wearing yellow too. When you're in your solar plexus chakra, you're in your you're in your power, you're in your personal power. So a lot of the times you can heal yourself through feeling like you deserve it. Like, hey, I need to heal. Like, talk to your body. Be like, hey, I need to heal. I need let's say you got to do something tomorrow. Tell yourself, I got to do something tomorrow. And body, we going it's like a confidence thing. So some people get sick and they like, oh man, it's gonna be like this for a week. Say it's gonna be like this for 3 4 hours. Wear pyrite. Pyrite is a crystal that will pyrite oxygenates your body. So wearing a lot of pyrite will help you. Wearing a lot of what other crystals can also help with your fluorite, turquoise. Those crystals are crystals have physical properties as well, not just spiritual properties, but physical properties. So use those crystals and utilize the benefits of it, and you're gonna notice some blessings.
Facts.
Yeah,
Big facts.
notice some blessings if you use it the right way, though. Oh yeah. How do you take the flower? How do you take the flower?
I've heard some people they eat it, and I've heard some people they boil it as a tea. I've heard different ways you can take it.
Mm. Yep, yep. The sun also burns the parasites.
Yeah.
That's right. There's been some people who got, what I'm talking about, the test, all that, and then the sun doesn't like none of that. That's why it's very powerful to get
and
out.
not only are you getting the light codes from the sun that's in our galaxy, but you're also getting the light codes from the sun that's inside the planet. It has a biotonic energy to it, to where it electrifies the body. That's why it's good for you to start grounding and stuff.
That's what I was gonna ask you. So we gotta ground to connect our feet into the earth.
Exactly. Because the sun is what revitalizes the soul. That's why it's not a coincidence that the word they call them soles of your feet, because it revitalizes the soul, the energy, because you get charges.
Okay, there's some things on the internet that say your soul is at the top of your body. That's incorrect.
No, the heart is the seat of the soul, but the soul enters the body through the pineal gland. So that's why only words from the heart can reach the heart. That's why when you hear a certain person say something very powerful, you can resonate with it because it could basically shake up your spirit and activate your soul. You can heal people just based upon the octave frequency of your words, and that's also connected to, like I said, your heart chakra. Your heart chakra, that's where the seat of the soul is. That's why when you understand medicine, they don't weigh the pineal gland, they weigh the heart on the scales of Mayat. Why? They do that is because, like I said, the heart has got to be as light as a feather. So the reason your heart's got to be light as a feather is for the fact that when you have, like, if a person who is heavy-hearted, they're in their emotions, right? Okay, then you're depressed,
Yeah.
anger and stuff like that. In order to ascend into the higher dimensions, your heart's got to be as light as a feather, because that's where the soul is connected at.
Yep. It's just like they say, shout out to Young Yoda. He said that, you know, when you pass, they weigh your heart. You know, that's what they did back in the ancient Egyptian times.
Yeah.
They would weigh your heart, and they would see if your heart was heavy. If your heart was heavy, then that means that you didn't forgive enough people in this lifetime. Like, we're gonna have, you might get double crossed. You'll probably have been double crossed, but it's up to you to forgive those people and to let your heart get lighter. It might take a year, it might take a long time. You might never forgive them, but if it's too heavy and you're just like a bad person, no one else might see it. But when you pass, God will see it. You feel me? So I've been learning about that. The heart is some people can't read your heart, but God can read your heart. So
that's another thing people need to be careful about the word God. There's a delineation between God and the Most High. I tell people all the time that God is acclimated to governmental ordinance departments, which is under a draconian empire. And that draconian empire is your foundation of your technocrat government. So when you say God, you're actually acclimating yourself to a draconian, because God is a reptilian. The Most High is Anu, who is Elion Elion El, who is the supreme architect of the universe.
Yeah. You will reincarnate if your heart is too heavy. That's definitely a possibility. So no matter what you do in life, if you are moving from a very vengeful, this is just for me talking to a lot of mentors. Like, if you move from a very vengeful area, if you make a lot of decisions based off vengeance and getting people back and always trying to get even with people, that's gonna catch back to you. You will be punished for that. Not maybe not in this lifetime, but it's gonna come back to you. And that's what Bdell was basically trying to explain.
See, another thing on top of that, when you are always going to be in a perpetual state of reincarnation, because the heart is a fractal interstellar vortex portal, meaning that when you have your heart into something, right, you lose time. You time jumping. When you have your heart into something, you're really passionate about something. You're like, damn, man, we was having fun. Your heart and your energy was acclimated to what you was doing. You're able to jump timelines just based upon the frequency of your heart, based upon your passion, and your passion and your creativity is connected to the soul. So when your heart is being compromised by the mundane and the trivials of this three-dimensional matrix system, you're always going to be in a perpetual state of reincarnation. You're always going to be. So if you have your heart in material, you're coming right back here, because, like I said, that's connected to your emotions.
Best crystal for heart chakra, rose quartz. That crystal is crazy for the heart. I'm wearing one right now, ain't gonna lie. But yeah, rose quartz is good for the heart chakra. Malachite does come up in the discussion, but malachite is a very intense stone, and wearing it, malachite is unapologetic. So if you wear malachite, things are gonna come up, and sometimes you're gonna feel that, like, that intensity of it. It's very intense. It got copper in it, so it's gonna make you, like, it's gonna really want to change your life now. So you got to be ready to wear malachite. And fluorite is also very good for the heart as well. Okay. Yes. All right, y'all. I appreciate everyone for hopping in today. We have ourselves the special guest Bdell1014, and he really brought us a banger. Anyone who's watching this, if you guys can do us a favor, maybe drop in some timestamps to help the viewers out. I will be having clips on my Instagram drop within the next few days from this live, and they're gonna do really well. And we're gonna have you on next time, Bdell. Man, it's been an honor to have you on here.
Yeah, I want to. I told you we need to do a panel or whatever. Have have some other people on, and we could share and chop up ideas and give out the edification together. I think
yes. Who would you like? Who would you like to have on here?
We can do it don't matter. We can bring Elder, ISIS, Kala. We can bring all of us. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
kind of feel like Transformers, everybody coming together and giving out esoteric information. I think that'll do really well.
Okay, that is something that will be in the making. But next time it's gonna be a banger, y'all. I appreciate everyone. Please, please, please show support, like this video for all of us, and we're gonna have another banger for y'all soon. Ashe.
Ashe.
Peace.